Is it correct to not play on the Mythic ladder if you want to maintain a high Mythic rank? In today's video, I'm going to be going through this article that I stumbled across while trying to answer this question, the Mythic limited rating problem. And it turns out that the answer to that question may very well be yes. Basically, the way the MTG Arena ladder works is very simple until you get to Mythic. You gain a certain number of points for winning, and you lose that same number of points for losing. So you'll move up one progress point if you win a game in Platinum, and you'll go down one progress point if you lose a game in Platinum. And that same system holds in Platinum and Diamond, and if you're a lower rank, then you'll gain more than 1 point for winning and lose 1 point for your losses. So it's very simple until you get into Mythic. But once you get into Mythic, an ELO system kicks in, which is based on MMR rating. If you've never heard of an ELO system, basically the way it works is every player will have a points total, and then it'll try to match you up against players similar to your points total. So if I'm a 1500 player and I play against another 1500 player, then that would theoretically be a relatively even match. If I win that match, my MMR will go up because it reflects the fact that I'm a little bit better than the other 1500 rated player. So I might gain 10 points and they might lose 10 points. However, if I play against a player that is much higher rated, if I'm say a 1500 rated player and I play against a 2500 rated player, there is a discrepancy in skill there, and because the other player is much more likely to beat me, and because the MMR system understands that they're more likely to beat me, there are different stakes on the line. If I win, maybe I'll gain 25 points because I pulled off an upset and really proved myself against a great player. However, if they win, they might only gain 5 points because they were just beating a player that was much lower than them in skill level. The way that an ELO system works, though, is it's a zero-sum game. So if I'm going to be gaining 25 MMR points for beating them, they will lose 25 MMR points for losing to me. If they're going to gain 5 MMR points for beating me, I'm only going to lose 5 points for losing to them. So I'm not going to get as punished for losing to a player much higher in rank than me, but I am going to get punished for losing to a player much lower in rank than me. Now, this system is applied when two Mythic players play against each other. But if you play against someone that is not in Mythic, which does happen quite a fair amount of the time because they want to make sure that the matchmaking times aren't too long, if I play against someone that is in Platinum or Diamond, they have not yet gotten to Mythic, so they do not yet have an MMR. So the ELO system does not apply. It goes back to a very simple system, kind of like the way that the system works when you're trying to rank in through Diamond or Platinum, where if you win a game, you get a certain number of points, you lose a game, you lose a certain number of points. However, unlike Diamond or Platinum, where you get a point for winning and lose a point for losing, the way that it works once you have ranked into Mythic is that if you play against anyone who's not in Mythic, you get 7.4 points for a win, and you lose 13 points for a loss. It's not a zero sum because they don't have an ELO system if you aren't in Mythic. So they don't have an MMR yet, so they don't actually gain or lose points that are equal to mine. I'm the only one that has points on the line at this point, and I lose substantially more points for losing than I gain for winning. In fact, if I want to break even, I have to get a 63.7% win rate against the non-Mythic players, which is absolutely crazy and is a very, very high win rate for Best of One Limited. In Best of One, there is so much that's just going to make it much harder to win sometimes. Sometimes you're on the draw. Like, that immediately lowers your win percentage by a lot. Also, you're playing against players that aren't necessarily that much worse than you. The difference between a Diamond player and a Mythic player is not necessarily that high. Oftentimes, it's just a matter of how many games you've played to actually try and get into Mythic versus, like, a lot of Diamond players would get to Mythic eventually if they just kept playing enough, things like of that nature. And the difference, like, if you're in Diamond, the way you get into Mythic is by having a positive win percentage. So you can get into Mythic from Diamond by having like a 51% win percentage if you just play enough games, or if you have like a 55% win percentage or something like that. And then the idea that all of a sudden your win percentage that was 55% in Diamond, enough to get you into Mythic, now every time you play against a Diamond player, you have to have a 63.7% win rate or you're going to fall in Mythic, just makes it very difficult for you to actually maintain your rank if you actually care about having a high rank on the Mythic ladder, because the idea that your win rate's all of a sudden going to jump up like 8 percentage points just because you've made it to Mythic is just insane. Like, it's a very difficult thing to grasp. And so for a lot of players, the best way to maximize their Mythic rank is to simply not play once they make it to Mythic. You simply wait in Diamond 1, you play your game, and you jump into Mythic at your 1650 rating, and then you just don't play because you don't want to just lose all of your ranking points by playing against non-Mythic players. And it's definitely a weird system in that it incentivizes you not to play the game instead of to try and climb by playing more and proving yourself, because every time you get paired up against a non-Mythic player, you just get completely hosed. It isn't as big of a problem for non-limited formats because there's more players, so you're more likely to play against other Mythic players, so the elo system can actually have a chance to enact itself. But the actual, like, yeah, they mentioned in the other constructed, but it's not as big a deal because there's way more Mythic players in constructed because it's more popular and a little bit easier to get there because you don't have to like pay the entry fee for all of the drafts that you play in order to get to Mythic. The logic that they have as a fix is potentially to start an MMR system once you make it to Platinum so that their MMR can actually play a role in the way that your rank works. It's just like behind the scenes or things like that. But if you've ever wondered why it feels like you can't climb once you make it to Mythic, it's because you need a very, very high win rate against non-Mythic players to actually consistently climb in Mythic. And if you want to have a high finish, it may just be best to employ the strategy of not playing, because every time you get paired against a non-Mythic player, you just have to be crossing your fingers that you win because you just get completely tanked for losing. Anyway, that is going to do it for this video. I found it to be a very interesting topic, and I hopefully explained it to all of you as well. I will link this article in the description if you'd like to read the full thing. There are also other articles by this person that go way more in depth. Like, I tried to look at some of these to see if I could maybe parse some of that for you, but it is much more in depth than this article, and this one was already fairly in depth, and I think that it's just a very interesting topic. So if you're interested, I will link this article in the description. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If you made it all the way to the end, in the comment section down below, leave hashtag ELO to let me know you made it all the way till the end. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you next time.